Hi, I'm Captain Ed Monette from Cannonball Runner Charters. As we had said in our previous video, we were asked to do some seminars, and we weren't able to do them because we're going to be in Florida, so I thought maybe this would help them out. This video is going to be about Michigan stingers for salmon. I've got a few notes here that I want to take a quick glance at. So pretty much what we're looking at is going to be May through September. In the May through September, you're going to have various conditions that we're going to talk about here with Michigan stinger. Now, as we said in the last video, which was about brown trout, this here with salmon, we do the same. We're using Akuma white diamond, only we're using 8'6" medium light. We're using cold water reels. We are using Berkeley 30-pound tests because of the fleas. Sometimes in the earlier part of the year we use 25-pound tests on those, and we're going to lead her down to 17-pound fluorocarbon. Okay, now there are times when we're going to be talking here that we are going to lead her up with our fluorocarbon. That's going to be a lot more when we're using paddles, and at that time we'll lead her up to 20, 25-pound when we're stager fishing, because you're going to sometimes be closer to the bottom where you got to worry about zebra mussels and stuff. So that being said, this is going to range from, we're using torpedo wire, we're using mono, we're using atomic copper, we're using steel, we're using lead core. This is going to be the whole arsenal. What we're looking at right now is when you first start out, you're going to be dealing with combos and baits. Okay? So what you're going to want to look for, we talk about this all the time, speed. You hear me mention speed a lot. So we run for salmon, we're running stingrays. Stingrays are a little bit more speed forgiving than stingers because they're a little bit bigger spoon. That being said, we're also working them in a combination with our sidekicks. We are also using those, with cut bait, atomic flies. We are using, I said, when we're using our cut bait, we're using our atomic Twinkie rigs. All of this can work in the same combination under the same speed on any given day. A lot of guys think, well, we're hitting bait, so that's all I can use is bait. We run a mix. We run a mix every day. Again, like brown trout fishing. It's nothing for us to have 6 coppers in the water, 2 lead cores in the water, 2 wires in the water, and 5 downriggers in the water. In that combination, we're going to run a variety of baits at a variety of different levels. And we want everything to be able to run at the same speed. Doesn't do you any good if you got 15 lines in the water and 4 of them or 5 of them aren't working because they're not working with the speed that you're doing. You might as well not even have them in the water. So, that being said, let me look here at a couple things. Look. I've been a Michigan stinger guy for probably 35 years now. Um, the hardest part in the fishing world is guys checking their egos. And what I mean by checking their ego is these fish go from yay big to 35 pounds in 3 years. These fish eat. If they're not eating, there's only a couple reasons that you're not catching these fish. A, this is what I mean by checking your ego. You're doing something wrong. Or B, the fish aren't there. That includes us too. I mean, there's days out there we'll see the fish, and if things aren't clicking, we have to start figuring out different things. Just because yesterday we were going at 2.4, today they might want 2.7. I mean, you might not figure that out the first hour or so, but it's something is going on. That's why these fish aren't hitting. I'm not a believer. I say this all the time. I'm not a believer. Well, they're just not biting. There's too many fish to all be thinking the same that we're just not going to bite. They eat too much. I mean, let's face it. They're like piranhas out there. So, the next thing that I want to look at is, like I said, the spoon game for us has saved many, many tournaments. The spoon game. And it doesn't matter what time of the year. It could be the Atomic Invitational. It could be Swego Pro-Am. It could be the Oak Orchard Open. All times of year, spoons will work. We even use spoons at times when we're stager fishing in mid-September. The conditions that I want to go over with you are, so early season is, in the early season, we use very few flashers in the early season. I'm a believer, fish are too high, flashers scare them away. So right now, I'm going to say this is when we're really concentrating with our stingers. Most everything we have in the water is going to be stingrays. Salmon are bigger. We run a little bit bigger bait for them, even if they're eating smaller bait. I like to run bigger baits, get a little bit bigger flash. Most of our speed is going to be between 2.7, 3.2, and Hunter could tell you, this time of year, I do a lot of power turns. I do a lot of power turns. When I say power turns, I mean we've got all these lines out there, and we're going to turn that boat around as fast as I can, because if you find an active school, these power turns are also going to tell you what speed you need to be at when you're doing these turns. You're going to know, are you going too fast or too slow when you're trying to control straight? Because the minute that you hit that right speed with these stingers, you're going to have lines go off, whether it's the slow side of the boat or the fast side of the boat. You're going to have action because, like I said, these fish eat. When we find something that's hot when we're salmon fishing, it could be a black ice, it could be an NBK, it could be, Frog Circus Freak, it could be a mongoose, it could be numerous other stingers. But when we find something, we beat it to death. There are days when we're salmon fishing that days will turn into the weeks, and that spoon will be the hottest spoon for a 2 to 3 week stretch. That's when it's really fun for us. We can put out the same lures pretty much day after day after day until all of a sudden the conditions blow up. And when the conditions blow up, you start all over again. That's fishing. That's what happens. You'll usually know that the first hour that you're fishing. You're going to know that first hour that you're fishing, that the conditions have changed for you. You'll know because a lot of times that first hour, you would already had 5 fish in the boat, 7 strikes, and maybe 8 strikes, and then you're going to say to yourself, the day that the conditions change, you're going to say, wow, here we are the first hour, we've had 2 bites. Start searching. Start searching. If the fish are there, start really adjusting your speeds. So, that being said, condition 2. Condition 2. This is one of my favorites. This is when we're way offshore. We're moving offshore. You know, a lot of times you're going to have it to yourself. A lot of people won't burn the gas to do it. You're going to go out there, you're going to look for some thermoclines, you're going to look for some thermal bars. Fish are going to be stacked up there. That's when it can be very fun, because you can go, again, to the same waypoints 2, 3, 4 days in a row until the waves blow it apart. And when the waves blow it apart, you got to look and find another spot, usually. So, this time of year is when we'll have a 50-50 spread. So this time of year, we're going to have, if we have 14 lines in the water, we're going to have 7 spoons, 7 paddles. It's not going to matter if it's on a copper. It's not going to matter if it's on a wire. It's not all on riggers. It's going to be mixed throughout. A lot of the things that we like to do, too, is we like to stagger them in the columns to where you might have a paddle down deep, got a spoon above it, then another spoon, then another paddle. So the paddles could be drawing fish in. They may not like the rotation of your cut bait that day at that speed, but yet it attracted them enough that they still see something that they want in bait. With Panoptics, a lot of times you'll see that. You'll see that they come in, they might come in for the paddle, and boom, they'll go for your spoon. That doesn't mean to pull the paddle because you didn't get any hits off the paddle. A lot of times that paddle could have been what's drawing them in. We let the fish tell us. I mean, you start adjusting as we run. If all of a sudden, you're getting 7 strikes off your paddles and you're only getting 2 off your spoons, well, now we might throw a few more paddles in the water and we'll lessen some of the spoons. We don't go the other way too much. Like I said, I'm also a believer that the paddles are attracting even towards your spoons. You can see the paddle a lot further away. If a fish is down 100 feet but the thermocline is at 70, they can see that paddle. The paddle may pull them up into the water column to where they locate your spoon. So, the sidekick, let's get into the sidekick a little bit here. Sidekick is kind of new on the scene. We haven't made a lot of adjustments to the sidekick. We found out we don't have to with the leads of our atomic meat rigs. Atomic meat rigs, basically, we're running the same as what we've run in the past when Stinger had their square paddles. The one thing that I've had to at times adjust a little bit more is the speed. Sidekicks can kick a little faster action. I don't like that as much when we're stager fishing. Yeah, we want to make them mad when we're stager fishing, but I think the fish are a lot lazier then, so I have to make that adjustment with my speed. So throughout the years, we've seen there's a lot of stuff that we've seen throughout the years of fishing on Lake Ontario. I mean, we've seen the water clarity change so much with zebra mussels. We've seen fleas be a problem. That's one of the things when you're running stingers for salmon. Like I said, eye leader down. So a lot of times I like to keep my my stingers, or I should say my stingrays, a little shorter, so I don't have so much to worry about with fleas. It's not as easy to always get the fleas off, but if you got less to deal with, it makes it a little bit easier. You're fishing usually a little deeper in the column too, so you don't need these big long leads, nothing like that. So condition 3, I always tell people, condition 3 is stagers. This is the toughest of the salmon stages to fish. A lot of people think it's easy because the fish are going to be in tighter, but you've got a lot of factors that are going on that makes it so tough. So the first thing that's going to make it tough is boat traffic. Everybody knows fish are there, they all come in, they all try to catch their fish. Nobody's spread out. Number 2, the fish at this time, where I told you there were eating machines, they don't want to eat. So you're there basically to piss them off. So you need to piss them off. Now, what do we use to piss them off? Well, we found out this year that the sidekicks work really well. We slowed them down a little bit. We had our atomic flies and our atomic meat rigs. We ran them a little bit longer than what we would normally run them because of the extra action that's with the sidekick. And we like it this time of year, we run Magnum spoons. We catch just as many stagers off the Magnum spoons as we do anything else. And just, you know, somebody had asked me about cut bait. What do you mean cut bait? You're doing stagers. We found out in the last few years that we'll catch just as many off cut bait late in the year as you will flies. There are days that they prefer the cut bait. Can't tell you why that is. I'm just telling you what the fish tell us. Believe me, we'd like to use more flies. It's the atomic flies are easier at that time of year. You know, we're not running as many lines usually that time of year because boat traffic is extremely heavy that time of year in front of all the river mouths and the new plants, the slab. All those places are going to have heavy boat traffic. So, you know, speed is going to be of the essence. One of the things that when you're salmon fishing earlier in the year, you're going to see you can go fast, you can go faster, and then you can go faster yet. When you're stager fishing, I've never seen where you can go fast, faster, faster yet. I'm sure there's been a day here or there that somebody could tell you that's happened. I would think stager fishing with stingers, with the magnums, which is a slower spoon because it's bigger and heavier. That should tell you a lot even with your paddles. You want to go as slow as you can go to get the proper action. the next question I usually get. What is the proper action? Same as I've said while you're brown trout fishing. Proper action on the stingers is a time thing. Just like it is no matter what lure you use on any lake. It's a time thing. Fishing is not all internet, telephone, that kind of stuff. It can point you in the right direction. I'm not going to say it can't. A lot of guys, that's the way they live by. But when the going gets tough, that's where you really need to know what you're looking at your spoons. There's some guys that I know that are extremely awesome cut bait fishermen. And they could look at a bait head before it's even wet and tell you, well, the action's going to be spinning too much. It's going to be, that's kind of the same thing. So what I tell people to do is, when you're salmon fishing, when you're brown trout fishing, what you need to do is take that lure, put it over the back of the boat, and actually watch it for a couple, 2 or 3 seconds. I'm not going to tell you to do this in the tournament. I'd like you to. I'd like you to take that extra time to not get set up. But if you're doing it on a normal basis, you're going to look down and see the first lure that you put in the water, and you're going to say, yes, I got the right speed today. No, I don't like how that is today. I've got to give it a little more gas. I've got to give it a back off the gas. You're going to be able to tell almost instantaneous. People ask me again about colors. So earlier in the year, when we were talking about going offshore and stuff like that, I'm one that likes a lot more natural colors when I'm salmon fishing. Now, when I'm stager fishing, I told you what we're doing is we're trying to get them fish upset. I like to use like the yellow NBK, the hot tamale. I like using stuff like that. That it's like waving the red flag in front of the bull. That's kind of what you're trying to do at that point. We are a boat that we are dedicated to Michigan Stinger. We're dedicated to Gibbs Delta. That's what we use. We're not out there experimenting with a whole bunch of other stuff. So when I'm telling you that we're using sidekicks, I'm telling you that we're using magnums, we're using stingrays, we're using stingers, and we're using scorpions, that's what we're doing. Now, I had told you in the brown trout thing, scorpions, we don't use them as much. I'm sure there's places that can. I'm sure there's guys that would tell you that's what they use. I can tell you we're more into the speed game, and scorpion's not a speed forgiven. We're more into the, like, same with the magnums. The magnums aren't as forgiving speed-wise. So we know when we're using magnums, we're backing her down. We're not flying. You can, but we're backing her down because that's what works for us. Those are the things that you've got to do. Early in the year, we're going to be doing 2.7 salmon fishing when we're offshore to 3.2. Later in the year, you're talking 1.7, 1.8. You're going to think that there's no action there. There is action there. There's just enough action there to entice them and piss them off. You want it to be in front of their face longer. The longer it is there, the more of a chance you have to make them mad. Well, sorry I couldn't do the seminars. I'm hoping that this will help you guys. And I want to tell everybody to see you on the water. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.